This episode of The Energy Show is sponsored by SolarCraft, providing solar, batteries, and heat pumps to Marin, Sonoma, and Napa counties for over 40 years. SolarCraft's 100% employee owners help our community step out of their carbon footprint and into saving money. Visit solarcraft.com.
So, you want to save the world with clean energy? Make money doing it? Confused about the economic and technical realities of residential and commercial solar, batteries, heat pumps, EVs? Want the real-world scoop on new energy technologies, not manufacturer hype? Then tune in to the Weekly Energy Show, hosted by Barry Cinnamon. Insights from Barry's 40-plus years in the solar and energy industry will help you understand the future ways we'll generate and consume energy. And now, here's Barry.
Welcome to this week's Energy Show. Now, all the clean energy tax credits have been eliminated in the proposed reconciliation bill from Congress, that big, beautiful bill. For consumers, that means that costs will go up 30% for anyone who completes their solar system after December 31st, 2025. Now, with today's solar tax credit, simple solar and battery systems, just simple system, cost about $20,000 after the tax credit. But on January 1st, 2026, any system that's completed on or after that date without the solar tax credit, that price will go up by $9,000 to almost $30,000. It's a one-third increase in the cost of a solar system almost. So to get installed by the end of the year, I mean, I know it's only we're still in June, but you got to get started right now because it's going to get super busy towards the end of the year, and there's a lot that needs to go right. I was kind of amused when I took a look at this quote on X from Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk's come to his senses on energy tax credits. Actually, I think he always had his senses, but he lost them when he got very, very involved with the Trump presidential campaign and his work on Doge. So recently Elon Musk criticized the Republicans' big, beautiful bill, or BBB, for gutting clean energy tax credits. Specifically, he said that abruptly ending the energy tax credits would threaten America's energy independence and the reliability of our grid. That is spot on. And I'd also like to add that it's going to dramatically increase home electricity costs. Now, I'm an optimist. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the solar energy business for very long. I've been following the details of the deliberations in Congress on this big, beautiful bill, since they started talking. So kind of looking at it realistically, Congress has three goals. The three biggest goals, based on what the White House wants to do, is extend the tax cuts, reduce the deficit, and preserve Medicaid. Unfortunately, most Republicans in Congress say they hate clean energy credits. They're opposed to them. There's a few that like it, or there may be a few more, but they don't want to talk about it. As a result, the first draft of the reconciliation bill eliminated the residential tax credits in part of the tax code called Section 25. All the residential tax credits for clean energy, gone. The latest draft eliminates even the commercial tax credits for clean energy. That's in Section 48. Now, I really hope I'm wrong, but there's almost no chance that both of these credits are going to be preserved based on Congress's three goals. One lobbying expert said that it's very unlikely that the commercial tax credits would be reinstituted. And it's almost impossible that the residential credits will be restored until there's a future Democratic administration. Now, here's what's likely to happen. Kind of got things sketched out over the next 6 months or so. The Senate's going to make changes to the big, beautiful reconciliation bill, and they just got their hands on that at the beginning of June. And during June and July, the House and the Senate are going to argue and deliberate about changes so that they can come up with a compromise bill. But while they're doing that negotiation, the president's going to continue to draw a big red line through all the clean energy credits. He doesn't care. It's drill, baby, drill in the White House. The Republicans will fall into line. Otherwise, they'll be attacked by the president. That's the way things are. The president has an enormous amount of control over both the House and, to a limited degree, the Senate, because he will go after our representatives and senators who are not doing exactly what the president wants. And as a result of these, quote, deliberations, unquote, there'll be a compromise bill that's going to be finalized in August, maybe as late as September, and that's not going to have solar tax credits for homes. And what's going to happen the moment that is kind of set in stone, maybe August or September, People who were still thinking about solar or batteries for their home are going to say, I got to do it right now. But it very likely going to be too late. By September, there may not be enough time to get most systems installed by the end of 2025. Yeah, maybe a really simple system on a simple roof with, one easy to install battery, but complicated house, big house, panel upgrades, service upgrades, complicated battery layout, a lot of roof segments. There's just not going to be enough time for these complicated systems. I mean, even, things like ground mounts and above ground or underground service entrance upgrades, not going to be enough time. So if you're thinking about solar and battery for your home, here's what you got to do. You got to get quotes from installers, reputable installers with good reputations very quickly and get a contract signed so you can get into their installation crew, because good installers are already getting backed up through, middle to the end of the summer. And that installer then needs to complete the engineering and get a building permit so they're ready to do the installation and make sure that they can get the equipment from their distributor or directly from the manufacturer. The installer is going to schedule that job, and that job's going to get scheduled in the fall or early winter. That's the busiest time of the year because historically everybody wants to get things done by the end of the year. But now there's a huge reason to get it installed by the end of the year because that tax credit is going to be gone on January 1st. When the installer finishes the system, it's not the end. They also need to get a local building inspection, and depending on the jurisdiction, maybe also utility approval. So the schedule is really pretty tight. I've been through these end-of-the-year rushes before. Candidly, it's good for short-term business for solar contractors and installers. We already know that 2026 is going to be a slow year, so the smart installers are already saying, hey, let's generate as much revenue as we can this year because the beginning of next year is going to be kind of slow. The thing is, Q3 and Q4 are going to be enormously busy for good installers. And here's what's happening. From an installer standpoint, they're faced with 5 big end-of-year challenges. First, from a product standpoint, there's likely going to be shortages of popular batteries and solar panels because of this end-of-year rush. Experienced installers order equipment as soon as the job is sold. That's what we do. As soon as we sell a job, we make sure that we can get the equipment in a few months when we're going to do the installation. The other thing that's weird, just realize about this, there may be plenty of batteries or maybe certain solar panels are going to be available, but inevitably what happens, there's one piece of the system, maybe it's a meter collar, maybe it's a certain kind of circuit breaker, there's going to be a shortage. And candidly, these tariffs are not making life any easier to get a lot of these little parts and supplies. So there's going to be product delays. Second, the utilities are always going to delay things. Candidly, utilities regard solar and batteries as direct competitors to their expensive electricity. I've been through this so many times. PG&E and other California utilities, they will not staff up for any kind of rush that consumers and installers experience. They're happy to let these things drag on. You look at it from a utility standpoint, the moment a homeowner puts solar in, they're going to save $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. Why is the utility going to be in a hurry to lose that revenue? They want to keep that revenue as long as possible, so they're incentivized to drag out the final interconnections. And then third, from a city building department standpoint, many cities have complicated solar and battery permitting procedures. Now, some cities, like San Jose, you can get a permit very, very quickly. Other cities take like 2 or 3 months to get a permit. They just have many, many steps to go through. And that delays the system. If you're in one of those cities, an installer may say, hey, I'm going to take your project, but they could find out if they're not really experienced, they can't get the permit in time to do the installation by the end of the year. Now, fourth, we have bad weather in November, December, especially in December here in California and elsewhere in the country. There's bad weather November, December. And you can't install solar when it's raining or snowing. So that's going to delay jobs inevitably. And you have holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas that typically are going to slow things down. People don't want to do installations then, and sometimes the crews are taking some time off. So you have weather and holidays kind of in the way. And fifth, this is the wild card, there's going to probably be more government policy changes. We've learned so far through 2025 that there's a lot of uncertainty. I personally don't believe that this uncertainty is going to go away anytime soon. There may be changes with tariffs, with company prohibitions, with new policies, with products that are barred from being imported into the U.S. I don't know what these policy changes are going to be, but I'm pretty sure we're going to experience some delays from those. So I've been riding this solar coaster here in California for almost 25 years. I've experienced a number of end-of-year cliffs, like California rebate reductions, like tax credits gradually stepping down by 5% or 4%. But this is the biggest cliff event that I've seen since 1985. I wasn't even installing solar in 1985 in California at the time. It was more on the East Coast. When President Reagan allowed the solar tax credit to expire in 1985, it kind of killed the market. But before then, it was raging. And boom, it ended just like a cliff. So bottom line, expect the busiest end-of-year installation schedule for solar for contractors this year. So here's my advice. If you're just thinking about solar, get references right away for good local solar and battery installers. Have them come out to your house ASAP for a site visit. You cannot design a code-compliant battery system remotely. You can't do it from a drone and a bunch of pictures. I tell you, believe me on that. So once you have a good quote, consider applicable financing. The financing's not going to be available in 2026 either, the way things are shaping up. We find that the best financing is with local credit unions. They're pretty much operating on a nonprofit basis, but you may have some other financing opportunities. So once you've got that design and you're comfortable and you've got a quote, commit to the contractor as quickly as you can because their schedule is going to fill up. That means get that contract signed as soon as you can so they can get you into the permitting process and get the system designed and reserve your equipment. And I know a lot of people in the solar industry are optimists like me, and a lot of companies are looking at this like, oh, this possibly can't happen. It doesn't make any rational sense. But as Elon Musk said, it could be really bad. It doesn't make sense, but I think it's going to happen. So it's a long shot bet that the tax credits will be extended. I'll consider myself very lucky if in 2026 we've got significant solar and battery tax credits. So if you're thinking about solar and a battery, I have 3 simple words of advice. Do not wait. That's all the time we have on this week's Energy Show. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. And if you missed any of today's show, you can always go to our website at energyshow.biz and listen to the podcasts.
This episode of The Energy Show was sponsored by SolarCraft, providing solar, batteries, and heat pumps to Marin, Sonoma, and Napa counties for over 40 years. SolarCraft's 100% employee owners help our community step out of their carbon footprint and into saving money. Visit solarcraft.com.